Welcome to the Sacred Designer Podcast. I'm your host, Alyssa Martin, kitchen and bath designer, entrepreneur, artist, and creative soul behind the Kitchen and Bath Digest. This is a show where we weave soulful design into every space and redefine what it means to create with intention. Here we don't just create beautiful homes, we design from the heart, embracing both the practical and spiritual. By pressing play, you'll be joining a community that creates not just for function, but for a sense of sacred space and personal alignment. On this podcast, you will learn to merge the art of design with soulful living, turning every remodeling project into a journey of self-expression and holistic beauty. This isn't just about kitchens and bathrooms, it's about embracing design as a path to a richer, more beautiful life. So let's step into this sacred designer together and create spaces that resonate with your soul. Welcome to the Sacred Designer Podcast. If you're new here, we're going to talk about the intersection of home and soul and how the spaces we create live that are never just aesthetic or functional, but they're about energy, intention, and transformation. I sit down with designers, organizers, healers, and space holders who understand our homes are mirrors. And when we shift our spaces, we shift our lives, whether you're remodeling your kitchen, or you're organizing your home, rearranging a closet, you're in the right place to believe that it's deeper than it actually looks. Today, we're exploring something many of us feel deeply, but rarely name out loud. Burnout, not as failure, but as an invitation. A call to redesign our lives, our rhythms, and even our physical spaces in ways that honor both our ambition and our well-being. I'm joined today by Amanda Baudier, coach, speaker, and founder of the Becoming Collective, whose work helps high achievers transform burnout from a breaking point into a breakthrough. What I love about Amanda's approach is that it does pathologize just the ambition or ask to be smarter instead. And she invites us to understand how our nervous system, our environments, and our identities are all intertwined, and how deep recovery and sustainability impact and can coexist. As a designer who lives in the space between form and function, habit and ritual, I am constantly asking, how can our homes support not just what we do, but how we are? And no topic is more relevant than the question that is learning to design a life and a home that sustains the fire without burning it out. So Amanda, I'm really grateful that you're here today, and welcome to the Sacred Designer.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Well, thank you. Thank you. So many people talk about burnout as something to fix. And I know I've been through it, but you talk about it as like a wake-up call. So with that said, how did you come to that understanding? And what does that mean to you?
Yeah, well, what I'll say is it can be a wake-up call. It can be a really sacred wake-up call to identify the ways in which your life is not supporting you as a whole being. A lot of times when we burn out, it's either because we have over-indexed in generally career, sometimes parenting, sometimes caregiving, right? We've really over-indexed in one area of our life. But then there's the other form of burnout that comes from being underutilized. So I see people enter a state of burnout from sometimes being in a career that is perhaps not overwhelmingly challenging, but just totally outside of their zone of genius, totally outside of their creative potential. And they start to become dulled and diminished, feeling like this is all that's possible for me. I'm not capable of getting more or doing more. But a lot of people experience burnout and do see it as, just I'm having a bad week, or I'm having a bad day, or I'm just really tired, instead of the invitation to look deeper and say, what's really going on here? What's at the root of this feeling? And how am I willing to look at all facets of my life and invite transformation so that I can move out of this permanently and into a new way of being?
Yeah. Okay. That's very fair. Yeah. Because, I was going to ask then, what are the markers of burnout? Like, I would assume that goes deeper than just exhaustion. And you had mentioned like the zone of genius. I think that speaks to me. But the ones people often miss, like, what are those? And like, can it be a crisis or?
Yeah. Oh, it can absolutely be a crisis. You may have read in my bio that I had heart surgery as a result of extreme burnout because my nervous system was so dysregulated that it was skipping every third beat. And I had to get an ablation treatment to kind of get my heart beating in proper rhythm. So yeah, it can absolutely be a crisis. I coach a lot of startup founders and CEOs who have similar, if not worse, burnout crises, believe it or not. But I would say the number one sign that people miss is apathy. Feeling either like you don't care or that your care that you do have is fruitless. Nothing's going to change. This is just the way it is. People who were once, cared enough to be super ambitious, super dedicated, they get to a point where it's like, it's beyond exhaustion, it's beyond overwhelm, and you just sort of give up and collapse. And that is both a like an energetic or mental thing, but it's also a nervous system thing, because basically when the nervous system is carrying so much load, it goes beyond fight, flight, freeze, right? Which everyone has mostly heard about, into collapse. In the natural kingdom, when an animal is under threat, it plays dead, right? When it's under extreme threat and there's nothing left to do, you can't run, you can't hide, can't fight back, you just play dead. And so when you find yourself in that state of just complete apathy, and I would say that there are times when extreme burnout can look like clinical depression. Yeah. And you might find that you don't need to go and get a diagnosis, but you might find that it was more situational and circumstantial and less just to do with brain chemistry.
Okay. Yeah. So I heard you say like apathy, stress, overwhelm, nervous system dysregulation. I mean, that's so many things, right? Like in a bucket, but like, how do you differentiate some of these things? Like, is there a good way to do that?
Yeah. I mean, I always remind people that the way that you experience something is not going to necessarily be the way the other people experience it. It's not going to be like what every influencer says, or, you can't necessarily compare notes. And so for me, I want everyone to have the assumption that you should feel pretty good most of the time, right? We're not saying that you need to feel, 10 out of 10 or even 8 out of 10 vibrant and great every single day. But I would say if you have more than 3 days in a row where you are feeling, let's say, below a 5, and you don't have, the flu, you don't have an illness, you haven't just recently gone through an extreme stress event or tragedy, that's when you really need to start looking at your life circumstances. And if you've ruled out, okay, I didn't just, lose a loved one or get laid off or something where, guess what? Life happens. And sometimes it is very rational and reasonable to be down in the dumps for a couple of days in a row, right? But if you're just going about your daily life, and I remember for me, when I was approaching burnout, I would come home and just like curl up in the fetal position and cry. And it wasn't because anything was wrong. It was just like, I was in such a state of overwhelm. And I hear this from a lot of my high performing clients where they're kind of fine during the day because they're just going. And then they come home and they sort of collapse. If that is happening, and this is not a hard and fast rule, but if that's happening more than 3 days in a row or consecutively for months, that is an invitation to see this as a wake-up call, to say, I don't deserve to live like this anymore. Because maybe you can, right? Maybe you have that grit, that resilience that is a good thing, but can also create the conditions for self-sacrifice in a way that is, we don't deserve to live like that,
Yeah. And I feel like those markers are ever, changing too. Yeah. I feel like sometimes you can kind of make that shift and then all of a sudden something different comes up. And so kind of like constantly reassessing, what those markers are, I feel like is also like what makes it hard. Cause then you feel like you made that shift. You're like, oh, well, that's it. That's what it needs to be. But then it's just, something's ever changing, just like the market. But I heard you say, a couple times that you do work with high achievers, and what are those, or how do you identify the achievement patterns? Like, how does that show up in your body?
Yeah. So there's nothing wrong with ambition. There's nothing wrong with wanting to achieve. The reason why I work with ambitious, high achieving people is because I find it very inspiring for someone to go after their dreams, for someone to create from nothing, for someone to push themselves out of their comfort zone. The problem comes in when you are willing to sacrifice yourself for the thing that you want to a degree that is unsustainable or really unkind. You're gonna have to, perhaps sometimes work late. You're going to have to make sacrifices, right? It is not that I think there's a dichotomy that we see a lot on the internet, which is like hustle hard, sleep when you're dead, or like the soft life, right? And many of us are somewhere in between, right? Because life is not so black and white. And so that's where this kind of personal discernment and assessment comes into play. Because if I have a client who, let's say, and a lot of my clients are startup founders who raise money. If you're in the middle of a fundraise, you might know that for 3 months, you're in a sprint and you might get stress. I have a client who calls it stress sick, right? You might get stress sick. You might be sleeping, less than you should be, but nobody can sustain that for an extended period of time. So if you know, like, I'm going into a fundraise, the next 3 months is going to be head down because I'm building this company that I believe in and I'm willing to make that sacrifice. Okay, guess what? When you close that round, it is not right back on the hamster wheel. You need to create the conditions. And for me, I am less insistent upon take a vacation, take a week off, although I love those things. It's more like, what are the daily restrictions I can put on my output when I know I'm super ambitious, when I know I want to please everyone, when I know I want to accomplish? And for some of my clients, that might be like, I close my laptop at 9 p.m., which is still
a little wild.
Late.
Yeah.
Really late. But guess what? If you're working till midnight, 9 p.m. is kind, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I really do work from the realm of reality. I think that we are exhausting ourselves to degrees that we're not maybe so transparent about. Because guess what? Even laying in bed scrolling until midnight is still stimulating your nervous system. It's still stimulating your brain. And so what I'm asking of people is, and one of the reasons why, high achieving people hire me is because I get it. I'm not telling you, close your laptop at 5, do 90 minutes of this every day, right? Like, great if you can. Maybe we're working towards that, right? Oh, you sold your business and you're financially comfortable. All right. Live the soft life, right? You're good. You did it. But I'm giving people opportunities to create shifts that are really consistent, because it's not going to be the one really hard month that's going to send you into extreme burnout. It's going to be the 6 years that you never came up for air until it was too late, right? So that's really what I recommend for people who want to achieve and want to have big careers or big families or all of the above, but don't want to kind of end up in that, crash and burn.
I appreciate that. You make it very approachable. And I love it. You're saying it's realistic and, because everyone's different, you know, and everything hits everyone differently. So I really, that's amazing. But, I'm hearing also that, there's a role that it plays in your nervous system. And, I've also noticed that the nervous system plays like this kind of a link with your identity, like that I must perform, or, like with the physical environment, like for me, like I must create this like perfect space, does that mean anything to you when I say that? Or?
Yeah, I think there's two things that really come to mind for me, especially when you bring the physical space into it. And it is the desire for control and perfectionism.
Mm-hmm.
Perfectionism. I mean, it's funny. I could see an Instagram reel of someone's interior design and kind of make some assumptions about what's going on in their nervous system. Like my house, you can see this background. I'm in my little office, but it's a lot of wood. It's a lot of antiques. It's a lot of sort of like not perfectly matched things, and it's kid friendly. And so that to me is like, well, that's indicative of I'm sort of relaxed. I don't push myself to breaking points anymore. And then if you see a space that is, and not to say that neatness or organization or, clean decor means that you are uptight, but it can, right? There is a level of obsession with perfection.
Yeah.
Right? And even as I say it, everything has to be perfect. everything has to be just so, right? If that's true in every era of your life, from how you work, how you decorate, how you dress, what your face looks like, how you dress your children, it is a tax on your nervous system capacity. We must invite gentleness, imperfection into our lives. This is why the term recovering perfectionist is such a popular thing, because nobody who is a perfectionist for too long will tell you that it's joyful. It's great to be exacting and precise and have high standards, right? There's maybe if you're like an 8.5 out of 10 on the perfectionism scale, you could be happy and that's how you live your life. 10 out of 10 perfectionism, eventually it's going to catch up to you and you're going to be crying on the bathroom floor when there's a tiny mismatch in how the tiles line up, right? My sister's an architect. I have, her inside take on that. So you know what I mean.
I'm sure you've heard some stories, right?
Oh yeah. Okay.
And I often say that our homes are our mirrors. And quite honestly, it comes down to you kind of explained styling and, and it cracks me up when children are in the perfect outfit, right? And then their parent is a mess. And I'm like, what is happening here?
Totally. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It has a lot to do also. And we live in an era where everything is on show and tell. I'm 42. And so I remember when if you wanted to do something, you just kind of had to figure it out and do it. You didn't know, is this what other people are doing? What is everyone eating for breakfast? I don't know. I know what the people in my office are eating for breakfast, or if I have a roommate, I know what they're eating for breakfast. You know what people eat in a day? You didn't know what their closet looked like. You didn't know how fancy their house. You just didn't know. And now we have so many examples of what's right, what's popular, what's viral, what's trending, to a degree that is crazy making. It's way too much data. It's I've gone to the other extreme where I'm I don't care what anyone else is doing because it's just too much. It's too exhausting. I have to worry about myself and what makes me happy, and my family. But beyond that, we don't need as much information as we're currently receiving.
Yeah. No, I like the point where you're saying, it's good to worry about yourself more, Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Because there's just so much. But in your experience, because you kind of mentioned a few different things, but how does a physical space either support you or exacerbate your your chronic activation and all of that?
Yeah. So there's a lot of different ways. And I would say that either extreme is going to be detrimental to your ability to move through the world in a way that feels purposeful and powerful, but not erratic, not erotic.
Well, maybe in some circumstances.
Erratic, chaotic, right? Clutter can really be a distraction. A lot of people these days are waking up and realizing they have ADHD, and having clutter all around you, you're not going to be able to sit down and focus if everything is cluttered. From a spiritual perspective, a space that feels like I have a couple of pieces of art to my left that make me happy, make me feel like the space is mine. I have some sacred objects on my desk, some crystals, a candle, like a little tray that looks like hands. And these objects make me feel like me. They make me feel present. They make me feel grounded. On the other hand, obsession with everything being perfect is just one more piece of that, not just perfectionist, but overdoing, right?
Yeah.
We have 24 hours in a day. We should be sleeping at least 7 of those. And if you're not someone who has copious amounts of help, if you do, God bless you. I've got somebody cleaning my house downstairs right now, it's not all the time, but when you can have it, amazing, right? We shouldn't put so much pressure on ourselves for everything to be perfect all of the time, because something's got to give, something's going to sacrifice, and you don't want it to be your physical, mental, emotional health. That's not the first thing that should go on the chopping block.
I think people have
you can let your bookshelf be mismatched.
Yeah.
That's more important than like sleeping one last hour.
And when it's like a necessity or something that needs help, but you're like maybe not capable, you don't have enough time. Like a lot of people have a hard time asking for help. Like, for example, like, you hired it out, you got it figured out, right?
Yeah.
It's just one less thing like to throw you off balance, right?
Yeah. And I'll be honest, because like I think it's helpful. I am one of those people that doesn't have the easiest time asking for help. But my husband has a lot easier time asking for help. And he found us, a great local person who gardens, who can clean up the house, who can do a little bit of meal prep. And I'll be honest, at first I was like, oh, like I'm the mom, like
I can do that.
but I have grown enough that I don't stop it from happening. I sit with the discomfort of, do I feel, oh, maybe I should be the one, or I should be making more time, or other people are capable of doing it all. Okay. You know what? I'm not going to block a blessing. I'm going to sit here and do my work. And then, oh my gosh, when I go pick up my kids from school and I come home and there's no dishes in the sink and the laundry's put away, I'm that much happier and more present. And instead of, after bedtime, staying up for another 2 hours, I go to sleep. I wake up, I'm refreshed. So yeah. And obviously this is a question of, not everybody can afford help, can get help. But if you can, please make your life a little bit easier. Life is hard enough. So make your life easier. And it does make a difference to have like fresh flowers on the table, right? A clean surface to work on. It really does.
And that, I think you brought up a really great point. I mean, just not as rest, but as regulation, so like when you think about recovery, I think those two things can act as their own, modality, really, quite honestly. But what elements do you consider essential in a home? And when it comes to rest versus regulation, what are the different things that you named a few? Yeah. But is there any other ones that you think of that come up that are really important to help you do one or the other?
We have, we live in the country. We have a big house. I've got 2 kids and a husband. We have 1 TV in the home and it's in the basement. It does not turn on during the week. I think minimizing screens in general is really, first of all, it's aesthetically pleasing. Very few TVs actually look pretty, no matter how hard they try to like case them and cover them and coat them, right? And so I think, minimizing screens, bringing living energy into the space, plants. I'm not a big fan of cut flowers. I know people are. I like my plants to come with the roots. So I really love to have living beings in the home that are just bringing that energy, cleaning the oxygen. I also think that personal taste is really, really key. Maybe you post your house on Instagram once in a while, but you get to live there every single day. And so if you're decorating your home, it is so much of life can be performative. But if you have a sanctuary that you're coming home to every single day and you really like something that's not in stock, not, trending anymore or whatever, go for the things that make you happy. Go for the things that make you feel comfortable rather than, well, this is what I saw on, HGTV, or this is what my favorite influencer's doing. It's just like, it's for you. It's your house. It's your home. Make it for you.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it really needs to mirror yourself and really express your authentic self, truly. Yeah. And however you can do that, whether it's, like the rhythm of the way your lifestyle goes, or, or what is the little tweak of your environment and how does that work together? Because I feel like when you do find that happy medium, it really does anchor, like yourself in your nervous system and kind of help support you.
Yeah. One other thing I'll add, and this was actually more, I won't call it an obsession, but it was more of an insistence of mine when we lived in the city and our space was much smaller, which is storage solutions.
Yes.
For everything to be, because, when I lived in the city and we didn't have a really big pantry, I did the whole container store thing. I got them to come and install custom things. We had a Murphy desk that folded out from the wall. It was like, how do I make this space as easy to keep relatively organized as possible so that I'm not spending, an extra 15 minutes 6 times a day, which adds up, kind of just like finding a place to stash something or like, hiding everything when company comes. The smaller the space, the more strategic you need to be. And that organization does support efficiency. And whatever you do in life, we could all like benefit from some efficiency in the things that don't bring us joy. Like, let's be leisurely with the things that bring us joy and really efficient with the things that we just have to get done, like organizing, cleaning, filing, toys, being everywhere,
Yes.
So, yeah.
It comes through for me is what we call like the work triangle or the work trinity. And that's where like the range, the fridge, and the sink collide. And you really should be keeping them, no farther than 6 feet, and no closer than like a couple feet apart. Otherwise it really throws off the rhythm. It throws up the feng shui, literally, but also the efficiency. And that's kind of like what you were just talking about the efficiency, like everything has its place, and if you do have that proper work triangle, it can save you up to like 5 minutes a day and then times how many days a week you're in there.
Yeah.
So yeah, for sure. I think that's kind of the same concept. I mean, so for someone who is coming out of burnout, what kind of, spatial adjustments can you create immediately for like relief? Is there anything that's like kind of quick that you can do to kind of help you or to kind of get yourself into it? Or is it all maybe just something you have to work on over time or both?
Yeah. And so you mean specifically when it comes to how you're curating your physical
well, when it comes to burnout, yes. Like how can spatially, like how could you make adjustments?
What's really important is to know that the nervous system is kind of like a rubber band, right? So it's constantly being stretched. This is not scientific. This is the way that I explain it to people.
Kind of reminds me of fascia when you say it.
Yes, yeah. So anything that creates stimulation in your nervous system is going to add to that burnout. And so I will hear people sometimes say that they're like a little bit like embarrassed of their space or uncomfortable in their space, or they're in a chair that's really uncomfortable, or like if your feet don't fully touch the ground and you're always like this, you need a pillow to go under your feet. You need the lumbar pillow, right? I have the really nice, like, I can't remember what it's called, the whatever the brand.
Like an ergonomic type of
ergonomic chair, right? So if you have like, the death by 1,000 cuts thing, if you have a space that is not physically comfortable, that is not well lit, that is not presentable enough that I have clients who work in these little like cubbies and then they have the fake background on Zoom and you can just see that they look physically uncomfortable. Well, if you spend 6, 8, 10, 12 hours a day in your workspace, it should be as comfortable as your bed. It should really be a space that feels like a sanctuary. Many of us in our generation, we had parents who kept everything, and maybe we're a little bit of hoarders.
Yeah.
Decluttering is a religious experience. I agree. Constantly, and thankfully both, clutter still adds up, but both me and my husband love to edit and donate and get rid of things. You don't need first of all, don't buy as many things, right? So that it doesn't get cluttered. But if you're feeling burnout, right? You're overtaxed, you're overwhelmed. You need less. And the last thing I would say is, we are sensorial beings. So what you look at, it matters. There's studies about how, like, I can see out a window directly to my left where I see a pond and the forest, right? There's studies that show that at hospitals, when a patient can see greenery and a tree out the window, they have better recovery outcomes. And if you're seeing just like a metal building or like a brick wall right here, it's detrimental to your health. And so insofar as you can curate a space that is conducive to healing, like the plant that I'm looking at behind you, it's lovely. It's even good for me as someone that you're talking to, right? So putting a tree, putting a plant, putting a picture of someone you love, right? Creating that environment that is soothing, that is supportive of you feeling at your best. When you're in burnout, and especially when you can't make drastic changes like quit a job or, whatever, it's those little incremental shifts done consistently over time that are going to get you back to feeling like you.
That's totally fair. But I also have found, and I've been here before too, where, high achieving people or just people who, feel like they need to perform, or the perfectionism, often feel like rest equals, like diminished impact, like how do you reframe that? Like that rest as fuel rather than, you're slowing down and you're getting behind.
Yeah. Well, I love that you use the word diminished, because there is the concept of diminishing returns. And when I use this phrase with business people, they're like, oh yeah, I get that. Right?
Yeah.
I give people a lot of grace. You might actually be quite functional at 60 hours of work a week, but at that 61st hour, diminishing returns. You're sloppy, you're cranky, you're making more mistakes. There is a tipping point at which more is not more and more becomes less. And it's different for every single person. I once interviewed a functional health doctor, and he runs a company called Next Health. They work with like a lot of like super high performers. They have those executive memberships, right? And he talks about standing up every 50 minutes. And so if instead of having hour meetings, you have 50-minute meetings, and you use the last 10 minutes to walk, even if you're walking while on a call, right? There's a lot of science behind the concept that more is not always more. And so for me, with high achievers, I don't want to just, be kind to yourself, honor your boundaries. They don't want to hear that. Yeah. They want to hear diminishing returns. They want to hear scientific evidence about how long you can actually stay in focus mode, how long you can be in flow. And that's really what I share with the people who are most committed to go, 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 because there's a part of them that knows that's true, right? If I sit and write, I can write really well for about 2 hours. At hour 2, I have to get up. It's not my best work. And everyone has different, kind of breaking points in that way. So that's how I kind of trick people into taking care of them.
Okay. Because what does sustainable ambition feel like? Like, or like in your body specifically?
Yeah. So it's different for everybody, but the one thing that is consistent is that it feels like such exquisite, mindful attention at a really regular interval. It means check, because it's not going to be the same from day to day or week to week. Mm-hmm. How am I feeling today? What am I capable of doing excellently today? And what shifts do I need to make to honor that? And if you're just on autopilot, you're going to miss those cues. You're going to miss, like, I had a retreat that I led this weekend, and then I taught last night. I am somebody who wakes up around 5:15. I exercise, I meditate, I catch up on a little work, and then I wake up my kids. I go to bed early, but I'm an early bird. However, this morning when my alarm went off, I said no. I could feel that there was sort of like a heat and a fuzz in my face.
Yeah.
That I would have had to really fight through to get downstairs to my workout room and do my typical 30-minute workout. Guess what? Tomorrow, after 2 nights of, 7+ hours of sleep, if I feel a little groggy, that's different. Fatigue versus grogginess. Yeah. How do I know what that feels like? Because I've paid attention to my own body every single day for maybe the last 10 years of my life, maybe the last 8 years of my life, since having extreme burnout, you realize this is not a game.
Yeah.
I need to be paying attention. And so that's what I would recommend. It's just paying way better attention to the cues in the moment so that you can make really like data-driven decisions.
Yeah. So I hear like, patterns, keeping like a pretty good rhythm. I mean, I know that your body loves like rhythm, but trying to stick with that, I think is, like a form of perfectionism, but at the same time you need it. And then also being attuned to your body, I think is also something that people are not at all.
And the thing is, my husband's a night owl.
Same here.
For him, getting up at 5:15 would be really rigid, really aggressive. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It would be performative, and it would not be conducive to his well-being. Me staying up till 11 o'clock at night is honestly, it feels torturous. Whereas to him, going to bed before midnight is like, he has to make effort. to do it. And so this is not about, right? It's not about the soft life, but it's also not about going hard. It's saying, okay, Amanda, you're a morning person. You know, you're a morning person. Get up. And instead of, messing around, get those things done that you want to commit to. Your workout, your meditation, catching up on some, high value work. I do a lot of writing first thing in the morning because my brain is sharp. If that's you, optimize for that time and then go to bed at 9:00 or 9:30 like I do.
Yeah.
If it's not you, don't stress your body more by saying, hey, you'd rather work out at 7:30 in the evening and then wind down slowly and go to bed closer to 11:30 and sleep until 7, right? Create a schedule that aligns with your natural rhythms and then, move just slightly out of your comfort zone, right? You might not want to work out as much as your body wants to.
Yeah.
So it's not about taking it easy. It's about being specific and curated and really designing a life that is in aligned with both your goals and your kind of natural limits.
I love that. I think because that was kind of my next question was like, as a leader, what should you evaluate? And what I heard was just like, thinking about what's your environment, what does your body need? And, is this sustaining me? Is this draining me? And then just kind of curating what's working best for you. Would you say that's fair?
Yeah. And I like when I start with a new client, especially someone who is experiencing burnout, overwhelm, being really reactive and aggressive, or being really like, can't make a decision. I'm feeling so lost. Set an alarm for 3 or 4 times a day and just check in. How am I feeling? Oh, wow. I'm tired. I'm going to go lay down and do a, guided meditation. Or I'm so agitated. What am I agitated about? Oh, I didn't eat lunch. Right? Like you might need to kind of train yourself to pay attention. Because before my burnout experience, and people would say, oh, listen to your body. And I was like, no, my body listens to me. Right? Many of us who are high performers, we're not the one who's like, I'm tired. I'm gonna blah, blah, blah. Right? We're not lazy. And we can be very unrelenting with ourselves.
Yeah.
We don't listen to our body. We force our body to conform to what we want to achieve. This is on my to-do list. You're tired, tough.
Yeah, moving on, right?
We're going. And so it's finding that sweet spot where you're like, okay, I'm feeling absolutely exhausted right now. Got a meeting with an investor. I have to do that. Oh, I'm feeling absolutely exhausted right now. I'm supposed to grab coffee. I might need to cancel that. Or I might need to say, hey, can we do a walk and talk instead of a coffee date? Because I got to move my body. Or, really looking at what is required and what can be reduced and being responsive to how we feel in the moment.
Absolutely. I kind of heard like the word shame and guilt kind of came through when you were talking about that. Cause I feel like, and what I related to too, cause I'm a parent as well, is like the mom guilt, different things like that, you just need to find different ways to cope with that. Right. And walk through it. You said is a great one. Yeah. Finding different ways.
There's a quote, I think it's by Sharon Salzberg. She's a meditation teacher, and it goes something like, if your compassion doesn't include yourself, it is incomplete.
Yes.
And so it's not that we become, and there's, once again, the internet loves to put everything in black and white, right?
Yeah. Protecting
your peace. Like, there's a whole thing now about like, well, you should inconvenience yourself for people you love. Like, most of us are doing that. Like most of us not,
we're already doing it. Yeah.
Right? We're doing it too much. And so it's really just being honest with yourself about, if I'm okay by giving this, by doing this, by going that extra mile, I'm going to do it. But if I start to feel like, once again, and I love the 0 to 10 scale because it's personal to you. It's like when you go to the doctor and they say, how bad's your pain, right? There's not like a clinical definition for my pain's a 3 or my pain's a 7. It's your definition. It's how you perceive it. And so if you're at a 3 or a 4, guess what? You're not being extra over the top generous that day, unless you absolutely have to be. You're going to say, I'm cooked. Let's talk tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
A great question to ask your friends before you ask for something or before you share. Hey, do you have the capacity for this today?
That's a good one. I like that.
And start to make that normal with the people that you hang out with. Make that normal with your partner or your roommates or whomever, your colleagues, whomever you're lifing with.
Yeah.
To where some days you're going to be the giver, some days you're going to be the receiver. Because if you're always the giver, you're going to burn out.
Yeah. And that's, you're a sum of, those collective people that you hang out with. Yeah. So also for me, it's making sure that they're, at the same frequency as you, that they have similar goals, that they're treating their self and their body the same way. Yeah. I feel like that's all something to consider though too. But I love that you're pointing it out, because I feel like enough people don't think about it. You need to have that equal back and forth.
Yeah, totally. And we were, I said I led a retreat this weekend, and we were discussing the fact that sometimes the people who are most like you in external ways are not necessarily the people who are the most like you and supportive of you in internal ways.
Yeah.
Because you're all moms, just because you're all entrepreneurs, just because you all live in the same neighborhood. Those external qualities do not necessarily make you a community.
That's true.
Community means that, hey, I am signing up to support you. You're signing up to support me. We might be different genders, different ages. It's really important that we not fall into the trap of thinking that just because somebody is like, we are both soccer moms, that's your community. Because it might be, but it also might not be. Everything in your life should be curated, right? Like,
yes,
don't just take the crayon box that you're offered. Like, really thinking, are these the colors that I want to, use for the design of my own life?
Thank you for saying that. Yes.
Do I need to melt down a few different colors and throw in some glitter or whatever, and make it really bespoke to you? We have that. We get the opportunity to design a life that is us shaped, instead of kind of just going along with the model, right? Like when you go to buy a house.
Yeah, what you think you should be.
Show house. You don't need the show house, right? Like the show house is just to show you an example. You get to choose.
Absolutely. With that said, I think that's a great place to pause. I do have a fire round.
Yeah.
Have you done fire rounds before?
I have. Let's see.
Okay, awesome. Let's do it.
Long-winded. So let's see.
So one word that feels like ease right now.
Space.
Okay. A place in the home that instantly tells your nervous system you're safe.
Fireplace.
Ooh, okay. Something in a room that activates you more than you realize.
Mess.
Okay. A sensory cue, sight, sound, texture that helps you regulate.
My dog.
Oh, that's sweet. A habitual pattern that signals burnout early.
Constantly opening your phone.
Oh, okay. A phrase you tell yourself when you need grounding.
I'm worthy.
Love that. A place in your home you describe as regenerative.
My yard.
Ooh. An intention you want every listener to carry into their space after this episode.
I deserve a place and a space that feels like me.
Love that. A physical sensation that tells you you're aligned with your life right now.
Dropped shoulders.
Okay. Mm-hmm. A design choice, big or small, that feels like self-care to you.
Living plants.
Okay.
The space.
I like that one too. So, Amanda, thank you so much for bringing such deep, embodied clarity to this conversation. I love that this is a reminder that burnout is not only a personal defect, but a meaningful signal, and that our lives and environments can be redesigned in ways to honor our ambition without sacrificing our nervous system. For everyone listening, I hope this episode invites you to rethink what sustainable living really means, not just as luxury, but as a design. And Amanda, where can listeners connect with you and learn more about your work?
Yeah, the best place to find me is either on Instagram at Amanda Baudier, just my first name and last name, or online at www.becoming-collective.com.
Beautiful. Thanks again.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Hey, Sacred listeners, it's Alyssa Martin. Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate it. But guess what? We're going to be at school. That's right, SKOOL. There we're going to have a free community where there's all the tools and checklists and things of that nature to help you get your remodel done in alignment. But guess what? We're also going to have the design lounge where you get one-on-one access to me. So go to school, check out the link in the show notes, and check it out. I'll see you guys next time on Here's the Sacred Designer. Thank you.